Okay, so this afternoon we are having a meeting to start up an Australian producer-to-consumer label fund. And Joel's going to give us some advice on how we're going to get that happening. I'd like to call Tammi, where is she? Australian Food Sovereignty Alliance President, Tammi Jonas, and also amazing Meat Smith from Jonah Farms. Tammi.
Lovely to see so many people here who care about fair food and who are prepared to stand up to the Australian government, because I know I'm a migrant. I know what the differences between the American street who fight the government all the time and the Australians who aren't as keen to fight the government as often. But I think it's time, don't you? I think the raw milk thing is an example where it's time. And I think today we actually came to talk about fair food. The raw milk story certainly set a lot of us off in terms of unfairness and governmentality. A lot of other things have been setting us up, like egg stamping. I'm sure some of you are aware that you have to stamp every egg now so it can be sold, so that you can identify where that egg came from if you go digging for your eggshells after you've eaten and got sick from the egg. Because that makes perfect sense, doesn't it? So there are a lot of things happening in regulation right now, but what is regulation actually for? I think our government's forgotten what it's actually for. Regulation protects us from invisible systems. The people here talking about food are growing food or buying food in deeply local connected systems. We need a different form of regulation. You don't need to be protected from me and my pig farm. Or maybe you do. I am a butcher. You don't need to be protected from people like us. You need to be protected from whoever sold those bloody berries from China. Yes. You need protection from that. Where's our government when that's happening? So if regulation is about protecting us from invisible systems, why did the regulators come and destroy all my salamis last winter? You know how they came and they did the raw milk police thing in South Australia last year? They came and destroyed all the raw milk in South Australia. Well, they came to my farm, our farm, last year, and they destroyed the salamis that were our salamis because we sell other meat products, and they decided our salamis were a health risk. Do you think that's fair? How would you feel if they came into your fridge and they took your salami and they just poured poison over it? That's what they did to us. So we're standing up now. We were quiet for a while, like every other producer or every other butcher who gets handled in that way by the regulators, and we're not going to be quiet anymore because that's bullshit. So I just think we're at the start of something. As president of the Food Sovereignty Alliance, I know we've already been working for the last 4 years on a people's food plan and getting people involved in making democratic decisions about your own food and agriculture systems. That's what food sovereignty is about. And we need to go back to taking control of those decisions and not letting the government make them for us, and not letting the government drive producers and providors out of business with unrealistic and unfair regulation when you just want to buy their honest food directly from people like me and others. So as everyone else has said, I'm just going to say, keep doing what you are doing. The people here already are. Keep drinking your raw milk. I'm going to keep drinking mine. Keep eating your illegal salamis. If you've got some, don't let them leave your property, by the way, that's the thing. And just keep fighting, keep your voice going. Don't let it die away just because the government thinks they've dealt with the raw milk problem, because they've tainted all the milk now, so none of the producers are even producing it anymore. Stop letting them create black markets for safe food. Yes! We have another extra special guest today, co-originator of Permaculture, Mr. David Holmgren.
Thanks. It's a long time since I've spoken at a demo. Yeah, because 40 years ago when I met Bill Mollison, I come from a lineage of oppositional social justice and early environmentalism. My family I was raised in the fight against the war in Vietnam, and my teenage rebellion against my parents' view of the world was by trying to stop the world we don't want, we're going to just go out and create the world we do want. I met Mollison at that time, and after 5 years of oppositional environmental activism, he was at the same place. So permaculture is very much about that. We're just going to go and do it. And through that process, we believe other people can copy, and it can be replicated small scale up, where it doesn't require the permission of government, the permission of the banks, the permission of the corporations to do so. Now, of course, the building up that growth from below, which really starts with ourselves in the household economy, where we do have the autonomy and power to do something completely different. The natural success pathway is when we get good at something, we do it for other people. It's the natural, organic process of enterprise development. Rather than some bullshit about research the market, oh yeah, we'll make that to provide that. Provide it for yourself. As you get good and passionate at that, provide it for other people. But we now know there's these huge gateways that are blocked, where you have to step up this massive threshold, go through all the regulations, get the funding from the banks to get large enough scale to be legal, let alone be economically viable. And the pioneers of the parallel food economy that are being hit are people who've made that transition through that space and are in that dangerous and difficult space where they start to become identified as a threat to the larger centralised, monopolised food system. So I think it's important that while we support people who are doing that, we also, all of us, are engaged as food producers, engaged in the household economy, where if we face more and more draconian control, we know that is our final fallback, that we will not let the government get into our kitchens. So sometimes people think that, well, isn't there a conflict, a competition between if we produce food at home and all of these small producers who are getting out there doing this pioneering stuff, rebuilding the appropriate monetary local economies, isn't that taking away from their market? Back in 1991, I wrote an essay called Gardening as Agriculture, arguing that food production at home in the household economy should be considered as a serious form of agriculture. Everywhere in the world, it's actually been the basis of any larger scale agriculture. And the natural thing is to say, well, yeah, isn't that sort of competition for all the great small scale organic stuff that's happening? But what we've found over the years is that people who grow some of their own food understand what a special thing it is to be a commercial producer and are prepared to reward farmers at farmers markets, organic producers, and pay a bit more for that care and attention and stewardship of the earth, because we've had a go at doing it in the backyard and we know it's not that simple. Rather than the spoiled brats going to Coles and wanting it cheaper and cheaper and cheaper and contributing to Coles further strangling the producers. So apart from home production being a fallback in what could, at the worst scenario, get a more severe crackdown, if you look at my ground tech future scenarios work, we've got to expect a lot of this sort of stuff in the future. Apart from that fallback back into the non-monetary economies where the corporations and government can't go, when we produce ourselves, we are that stepping stone to say, yeah, let's support those producers out there. And in doing so, we need to remember that some of the most critically important producers are not just the people who are producing vegetables and, dare I say, dairy, because it is possible to do that in the household economy. But our grain growers who are dealing with the onslaughts of GMOs and very, very marginal profits to grow organically on a large scale, they're the producers of our staples, the things we can't really very easily do at home. And we need to remember those people and cherish them. At the moment, they're not in the front line of the regulatory control, but they are on a very fragile edge also. So that solidarity across that divide of the household and community economies and the small-scale monetary economies is that solidarity we've got to hold. Thank you.
Now, is it Justin? What's your name? Kombucha King? Alan, King of Kombucha Alan has got kombucha, orange blossom and apple mint for donation. If anyone's feeling a little bit parched, hop over and grab yourself. Reg, are you feeling like you'd like to take the microphone? Woo! Does anyone know Reg?
Hi everybody, great turnout.
Point it to your mouth.
My name's Reg Matthews, and along with my wife Diane, my son Paul, daughter-in-law Vicki, 3 grandkids. We farm an organic Jersey dairy farm down in Victorian. Up until the 1st of this month, we were allowed obviously to sell raw milk. We go back about 40 years in the raw milk industry. We've sold raw goat milk, raw cow milk. We actually operated under the last legal raw cow milk licence in Victoria. Now, the press will tell you everything was outlawed in the mid-1940s. Well, how come we still had a bit of paper that said we could operate in 1989? I can't work it out. We've seen a big change. We've lost 70% of our business. We do pasteurize.
Did you hear that? 70% of their business.
We do pasteurise, freedom of choice there. We pasteurise at the legal lowest temperature. My preference always raw milk. All you people, look, we've got to start somewhere. We've got to get stuck into these bloody people in here. I've had a gutful of it. I think there's probably 3 things that come to mind for me. One is freedom of choice. The other one's to regulate and set sensible standards for the raw milk. And I really want to push hard. I want to know who the bloody hell's behind all this. There's no one standing up. They're all faceless. I want to push for joint parliamentary inquiry. So I've been lobbying the pollies out our way. Slowly but surely we're getting a little bit of traction. We'll see what happens in the future. But there's something wrong. Something terribly wrong. I would say to these people in here, you know, the politicians, the bureaucrats, all the people, all the lawmakers, that us combined, Mother Nature have a lot more votes, have a lot more saying power than they ever will. So we've got to keep hard at it and get stuck into these people. Good on you. Thank you.
And you can support by buying the latest product, which is 63%, is that right, Reg? 63? Yep. Ask for it, because we asked for ours, our local shop in Castlemaine, we asked them to get it in and they got it in for us.
Yes.
So we have to keep moving, we have to keep pushing, we have to ring, we have to write letters. That's the only way they're going to take notice of us. If we keep making noise, we are not going to take this lying down. I'd like to introduce you to Lorraine Pratley from Australian Raw Milk Movement.
Well folks, I'm very new to real food activism, but I have been an activist for probably 25 years now on various social justice issues in Australia, and I have learned a thing or two over that time. I've learned that the government doesn't seem to be interested in what the people want. The government doesn't seem to be interested in what the people need. And by people, I mean people who work for a living. People who actually go to work and go home again in their job, in their truck or whatever, or people who go to work on the land and come home again, and I believe that's very late at night. I have learned that money speaks very loudly, and that's the voice that the Australian government has been listening to in shutting down raw milk, but also putting all these obstacles in the path of decent small farmers who want to get on with their work and produce nourishing food to nourish people, to get some satisfaction from their work, to do what they love, and most importantly, it's food production. It's about nourishing other human beings. And I'm really angry. The more and more I find out about how difficult that is being made, the angrier I become. But the anger always has to be channeled into productive activity. And so, whilst I agree that yes, writing letters is very important and it's going to be a huge part of the Australian raw milk movement of our campaign, there are lots of other things we can do. For example, this rally today. Look, Regrarians, thank you very, very much for adding a rally on to your day. We need to get out publicly. Even though, look, I mean, this is a pretty good turn up for a working day, but we need to get out in public and show that we are ordinary people. We need to expose their lies. We're not, we haven't all got dreadlocks, not that there's anything wrong with dreadlocks, but we are just from all walks of life, and we want to eat food that will nourish us. And so we're out here in the public, taking a public stand. I'll tell you a little bit about what we're doing, what we're putting together. The raw milk movement is in its infancy, and it is growing fast. There are people who stepped up to take responsibility to organise areas of work. So we've got a team of people putting together a pack up to take to politicians, a lobbying pack, and it'll have in-depth documentation for the staff. It'll have a one-page briefing sheet for the politician, because they're so busy, doing whatever, screwing us all over. And it'll have a letter, and it'll have a means for you to write, to send them our official letter, to write your personal story with it. This will be spreading. The people far and wide will be using this pack to write letters and to go and see their MPs. We have someone who is coordinating market stalls. We'll be going to farmers markets and every other event we can get into, and spreading our word and trying to convince people to get into activity. Because although money speaks very loudly and spoke very loudly in the government's ear, and the Victorian government's ear, about raw milk, we have the numbers. We are the majority. Yes. And so we are the ones who are going to be out there spreading the word to more and more people, and we will not stop until we win. Yes. And I won't keep you out in the sun much longer, but I wanted to say that in a world where, I just read the other day that some United Nations body has worked out that by 2016, the richest 85 people in the world, 85 of them, less than there are here, will own the combined assets of the poorest half of the world's population. I mean, one of the speakers said, where are we headed to? So I think that speaks volumes. And we're all in this together, small farmers and consumers. Yes. And I just want to, I guess I'm just having a rant. But what sort of society sends my dear friend Vicki Jones, and courageous and pioneer fellow raw milk farmer with Jordan and Reg and Diane I've seen here today. She told me that something like, 7 farmers a week, or correct me if I'm wrong, but it's some huge number of farmers, small farmers in Australia, go out of business. What sort of society treats farmers like that? Food is one of our most basic human rights, and the very people who are producing it for us are being treated so callously, spat out on the scrap heap for these big corporations that are going to do these huge, several thousand cow farms. It's bad for the cows, it's cruel and inhumane, it's bad for the environment, and it's bad for us. It does not produce nourishing food, and it's bad for the farmers as well. This is their livelihoods. I urge you all to, I hope everyone's coming tonight. We'll have a stall, we'll be handing out some of our literature, and I urge anyone here who's, you've all shown great initiative and, guts to come here today, so consider approaching us and getting involved, and we will certainly slot you into an area of work. And also that I see, my vision now is or hopefully our vision can be that a win on raw milk only lays the basis for a stronger real food movement in Australia overall.
We have the numbers. We have the numbers. We can do this because we have the numbers. I'd like to introduce to you someone who has been behind the local food movement for probably 30 years soon. 30 years. Sue Dennett from Melliodora in Hepburn has been a pioneer of the local food movement. And I'd like to introduce you to her. Sue Dennett.
Okay, you can hear that now?
Aye.
Yep. I'm just one of you, no different to any of you. But we in the country are so blessed. We are able to have our local food and eat it too. So this movement to stop all that, is it jealousy or is it just callousness? I think probably the latter, although we'd like to think that those of us who are in power there, who will probably be looking for the same good food we are, have some idea of what their children are going to be up against in the future. And if they don't support local food and local connection and local resilience, there won't be anything to support at all in the future, because these big systems hopefully will fall to bits all by themselves. They do need a bit of a nudge, because as has been said many times here today, the money speaks louder than words. In some areas in the world, the money is not quite doing the job anymore. So hopefully, as I said, these systems that we're all supporting, and we can do it. We can do it ourselves, even if it's on a small scale. The basis of what we need is there on a small scale. So home production, supporting then your neighbours who are farmers, etc. We in the country are the most blessed, and we need to help our city cousins as well once we've got our selves in order. So I encourage you all to make sure you don't go to the bloody stupid market. Get your local farmer, go down the road, organise yourself with your neighbours, get a veggie box, get Tammy's salamis. Keep doing it. Don't wait. I'm ready to go in the clink again. I've been there several times before. It's not so bad, really.
What's your food like?
They give you macas on the floor and you kind of go, I can survive with no food for a week. So I don't do my coffee every morning. So all I can encourage you is to keep staying local and fostering the systems, the small systems, a little bit further afield once you've got your own house in order. Thank you.
Who wants to end up in the clink? We're going home in the back of a divvy van. No, we're not. We're being good. We're being good. Okay, because it's hot, have I left anyone else? I'm having a little bit of a brain. Was anyone else going to get up and speak? Anyone?
There you go, Sue.
We're covered. We've got Murray the vet here. Murray's a vet. He's looking after us. Please go and support Alan, the Kombucha King, and give him a donation. Folks, it's not too late to spread the word and bring more people tonight. We've got about 400 booked in for tonight. We're starting at 6 o'clock. We're having kombucha, homebrew, wine, food, beautiful food. We're having book sales and signings. We've been having some music because we believe that you can still have fun when you work very hard. So hopefully we'll see you all there tonight, and please keep telling people to come. Thank you so much for making the effort on this hot day on a Thursday. We really appreciate it. Can we get some people to stand behind with their signs? And can we get Joel, Sue, David, Lorraine, Tammi, Darren, Costa,
Cyndi.
everyone who spoke. That makes it easier. Who says you're dumb? Everyone. Yeah, the government. Costa. Who else? Everyone that spoke. And the cow, we need a cow. And we need some signs. People in t-shirts. People in t-shirts. Anyone who wants to be in a photo. Anyone who can feel the movement. If you can feel the movement, pop up and be in a photo. I think we need a little bit of French. No? Joel, come and hop in. Andrew, come and hop in. And then, come and hop in.
Bunch up. Bunch up.
Costa, come up the front. Anyone who wants to hop in, hop in.
Lisa, you get in.
I'm missing my raw milk, so I'll sit near the cow and dream.
Anyone who spoke, can you please stick around and post some press photographs afterwards? Oh no. Let's hear you guys roar!
Arms in the air.
Old MacDonald had a farm, E-I-E-I-O, and on that farm he had a cow, E-I-E-I-O, with a moo-moo here and a moo-moo there, here a moo, there a moo, everywhere a moo-moo. Old MacDonald had a farm, E-I-E-I-O. Do we want robotic dairies?
No!
Do we want cows kept inside?
No!
Do we want chickens squashed in cages they never see the day of light?
No!
Do we want feedlots for cows?
No!
Do we want pigs that have to lie down on concrete because they can't stand up?
No!
I think we ought to let the bureaucrats live like the animals.
Exactly! Tony Abbott, we're going to squash you in a pig cage.
Yeah!
With 12 piglets suckling off you. Okay, are we done?
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody. Buy some kombucha. Buy some kombucha.
Anyone who spoke